You're listening to Creative Leadership with Heart, a podcast that inspires people to take action and be the leader they were born to be. I'm Coach Rico, and I'm known for coaching and training executives, leaders, founders, and high performers at Fortune 100 businesses, startups, and more. I'm here to answer your questions about leadership and personal development while also asking you questions that can unlock your untapped potential. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Creative Leadership with Hearts. I'm your host, Rico Nasoul, and today we have an amazing guest, Rebecca Ann Nguyen. She is a writer, author, and content designer. You may have seen her work published in the New York Times, Insider, and many others, and we're going to talk a little bit about her debut novel today, The 23rd Hero, and it just received the 2024 Reader's Choice Award for Best Adult Novel. So, how are you today, Rebecca?
I'm great, Rico. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Thank you for joining us. So jumping right in, right, how we always start, tell us a little bit about yourself and your creative journey. What was it about writing or any other creative endeavors that made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I think I was writing just from the time that I could, whenever you first learn in school, and doing creative endeavors like theater. That was a huge focus of my childhood, all the way up through adolescence and early adulthood. I was acting, working on the stage and screen, and I started to write more and more, originally because I was writing scripts for myself and my friends to produce and, to build up our acting reels. And so the writing part was never really a focus. I'm kind of a late bloomer in that area. I didn't think of it as anything I wanted to really focus on or do professionally. But what was interesting is that acting was always such a struggle, like having a really hard time breaking in and getting the roles that I wanted to get. But whenever I was writing, doors would just open up for me. And so eventually, after many years, I sort of said to myself, maybe, life is sort of giving me a hint here. When I go in this direction, things are happening for me. When I'm over here, they're not. So maybe I should just take the easier path and kind of go with the flow for writing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I know you said take the easy path, but it wasn't that one. We might get into that a little bit later. But I always like to ask this question. Was there a moment, was there a movie, a poster, a song, something that's like, oh, this is what I want to do?
Gosh, yeah. I think what first came to mind when you asked that was reading Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, which is, I think this is early 2000, maybe 2006 it came out. And I just love her voice and her humor and the way she writes about love and spirituality. And I was so inspired that a memoir about travel it's really deeply spiritual. She spends a lot of time in an ashram in India, and that could be this mega smash hit bestseller. It just sort of gave me hope for humanity. But mostly her voice, like being able to read these, scratches on a page, which is just, words on a page, but to be able to get an intimate sense of who someone is as an artist and a human being, that was so exciting to me.
Yeah, it's an amazing book. And getting into before we start getting into your story, I wanted to ask a little bit of like, what is your personal mission when it comes to creative? When you're writing, like, who are you writing for? Like, what are you hoping to achieve through your art form?
Yeah. It's a really great question. I think I kind of have a non-answer because my goal is usually to get out of my own way and to let whatever is going to come through kind of come through. I was chatting with a writer friend the other day, and we both have that experience where you might mentally set out to achieve something, or you think you want to do this or that, and then what ends up happening on the page is something you never could have predicted or expected. And in my experience, it's always better than whatever I thought I wanted to do. And so I've learned that my goal is to not think too much, to not to whatever goals I might set for myself, to hold on to them really, really loosely. And that creative muse or force or whatever you want to call it, there's some sort of intelligence. I think it's the same intelligence that makes grass grow and makes the planet move. And I think as artists, it's coming through us and wanting to express itself. And so I think my job is to remove the barriers to that and to let it come through.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a perfect segue because we were talking before we chatted, um, and there were some things you had, some potential fears that you had of flourishing. I'd love for you to share some of those thoughts and how you overcame that to write these articles and now a novel.
Yeah, I think I have just so many memories of being held back and second guessing myself and questioning everything, like my right to breathe air, I from an very early age. And so I think only recently, as I've gotten older and I've, you know, learned my process as a writer and really learned to come to writing as what I love to do, that's sort of built my confidence more. But for a long time, I asked myself, like, who am I? What right do I have? What story do I have to tell? And I didn't have an answer to that, and so I thought I couldn't, or I shouldn't, or I had nothing new to contribute. So a challenge like this might sound a little strange, but I felt like I wasn't deep enough or dark enough or heavy enough to write something worthy. I look at stories that I really admire, and they're diving into issues like the issues of our day. They're, socioeconomic issues of race, and things that are really important. And the stories that I feel like need to be told. But for me, the stories that come out, that it's not like that's not who I am. Like I lean more towards humor and adventure
Mhm.
and things that I think are more fun. And so I think for a long time I felt like that's so shallow. Like you don't like the world doesn't need that. And what I've realized is that I think the world needs all kinds of stories, all sorts of different stories, right? Like it's sort of like the way that we eat. Like we need a lot of healthy food, but sometimes we also need some snack food or some desserts, and the variety, creative variety. So it took me a long time to think of that as a worthy pursuit. Like what naturally comes out of me tends to be fun, and I hope funny, and that's acceptable. Not everything has to be deep and dark.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that because that's a thing that creatives, and I hope people who are listening can take these nuggets away. Like a lot of creatives, I dealt with it too. And I think a lot of creatives have this fear of like, am I good enough? Because they see artists and craftspeople that have been doing it for decades or whatever. Or to your point, they've had some sort of, whether it's historic or traumatic or whatever event that can affect people in other ways. But to your point, everybody has a story to tell. And so everybody has a life experience that is different. That's why we're all different.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to get a little bit deeper. So you said it took you a long time. Were there things specifically that you had to work through or that you did to start to believe like I'm good enough? Like, because humor, if humor is what you offer, absolutely the world needs humor. I don't think the world could ever get enough humor because all the cynicism, all the negative stuff that happens all the time, like humor is such a relief. So
Yeah.
what Thanks for listening to this episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. If you're ready to make huge, lasting change in your life, then what are you waiting for? What will your life look like if you took action today? What would it look like if you didn't? If you're serious and you're ready, book your free strategy session today and let's make your future a reality.